Hey, it's Ryan with this week's Mille Lacs Lake Fishing Report. Water temps are about 76, 77 degrees today, and the weather's been absolutely beautiful. It's just been consistently nice out for days now. We have some days where it's a little windier, and we've also had some days where it's glass calm, and that can make for some changing fishing conditions. But overall, I'd say the fishing's been pretty decent. Everything is definitely in a midsummer pattern right now. We'll get started with the walleye report. I heard some mixed success over this last few days. Some guys were doing a little better than others. Other guys were having some tough days. What I would say is some days we've had some wind, and other days it's been glass calm. It's been hot and beautiful outside, and sometimes that's not always conducive to good walleye fishing. However, if you have a little bit of wind, if you have some low light conditions, whether it's overcast skies or morning or evening, there's definitely fish biting on the lake right now. There's a couple different ways to approach them. I would say if you have a glass calm day and you're dead set on going out during the day, I would approach the walleyes a couple different ways, actually two ends of the spectrum. I would either go finesse with a Lindy rig and a jumbo leech, drive around until you mark fish, stop right on top of them, hold the leech right on their nose, and try to entice them to bite that way. Or I would go to the other end of the spectrum and I would pull lead core, try to get a reaction bite out of them. It's lead core season right now. That gets kicked off right about this time of year, and it goes until mid to late September. But now is the time to be pulling out those lead core rods, especially if it gets calm outside. So flat calm seas, pull out the lead core, or if you want to go a little more finesse, try the Lindy rig and a jumbo leech. When pulling the lead core, I would stick with small baits. A lot of the young of the year stuff is hatching and it's moving out to the main lake right now. They're going to be little itty bitty fish. So a little number 4 Selmo hornet, little number 5 shad wrap, or a number 5 flicker shad are all good choices. I don't get too wound up about colors. What I would say is pick one of 3 things. Something with an orange belly, something with a white belly, and something that's chrome. On a sunny day, I'd pick something shiny, something chrome. On the other days, I'd try either an orange belly or a white belly. But one of those 3 baits and one of those color patterns are good choices. As far as the speed, I would say about 2.5 miles an hour, somewhere in between there. And I would go right out into the basin. Now you can try trolling the edges of the flats or on top of the flats, or you can try trolling the transitions on the gravel bars. That all works. But if you're new to fishing lead core, sometimes the easiest thing to do is to simply go right out into the basin and pull right out in the middle of nowhere, 30 to 35 feet of water. If you're new to it, what I'd recommend doing is waiting for a calm day and driving in a straight line and maintaining a certain speed. Lead core sinks, so the faster you go, the more it's going to want to rise up on you. The slower you go, the more it's going to want to sink on you. So maintain a consistent speed, go in a same direction, and give it a try. The basin's always a good place to start this time of year. You can cover a lot of water, and there's a lot of fish out there hanging out. Now, if you're going to go out during more of a low light period, or if you have a little bit of wind, I would do things a little differently. You can still do the Lindy rig, you can still do the lead core, but I personally have been sticking with the bobbers. Bobber and a leech just works day in and day out here. I wouldn't go with the jumbo leeches, just go with a good size medium or a large leech, put it on a plain hook, put it on a slip bobber, drive around, mark some fish. There's 2 areas that I'd focus my efforts. I would either go to the deeper gravel bars or I would go to the deeper mud flats during the day. Run the edges, try to mark some fish first. When you see them, throw your bobbers out there and drop them right on top of them. This is a great way to get bit when the bite's tough. You're marking fish so you know they're in the area. You're putting a very finesse type presentation in front of them with the bobber and leech. If you have a little bit of low light, a little overcast, or a little wind, it should work well for you. Now, between the flats and the gravel bars, what I would say is if you want to get a few more bites but smaller fish, go to the gravel bars. If you want to hold out for a little bit larger fish, go to the flats, but you're not going to get as many bites out on the flats. Now, as far as the evening bobber bite goes, you can do things a little bit differently then. I'm definitely noticing there's fish that are still in shallower water, even if all the warm weather we've been having. What I would do is try to find something deeper than 10 feet, maybe 12 feet plus, and try to find like a rock gravel transition. So if you're looking to stay closer to your cabin, rock gravel transitions deeper than 12 feet of water, there's definitely some fish still up on some of these shallower areas. Moving on to the muskies. Muskies are being typical muskies. I'm actually hearing some pretty decent reports this year, and I've had some success myself in my boat. Now, we've had some trouble actually getting the fish into the boat. However, we are seeing fish, we're getting follows, and we have had some hits too. I'm also hearing that from other guys that are fishing on the lake. I've heard some pretty decent reports this year, so it definitely seems like we're seeing a little bit of an upturn in the muskie bite this season. Being that it's midsummer, there's a couple different things that a guy can do when looking for a muskie. If you're looking to cast, what I would recommend doing is sticking to the deeper weed lines. I would recommend finding something in that 10 to 14 feet of water. Try to find the deep cabbage. And I would fish fast. Bucktails are a great choice this time of year. Use something bright on a bright day, use something a little darker on a darker day or in the evening, but fish a little bit faster. Try to get a reaction out of the fish, but there's definitely fish being caught on the lake. The other couple techniques that work well also are going to be the top waters. So whether it's a plopper style or a walk the dog style top water, either one of those can work too. Don't be afraid to throw them on a windy day. The other thing that's one of my personal favorites is the glide bait. I've said it before, I'll say it again, glide baits will move fish when nothing else will. So if you want to try something different and you're looking to just get a follow on a fish that you might be able to come back to later with a bucktail, maybe during a moon phase or during the morning or evening, throw a glide bait during the day. It'll definitely get fish to come up and look when nothing else will. If you want to do the trolling thing, there's guys catching fish out on the flats. I wouldn't say it's crazy out there by any means, but I am hearing fish being caught. Trolling 4 to 5 miles an hour seems to be what most guys are doing. Large baits, 10-inch matlocks, headlocks, plows, stuff of that sort. There's quite a few different baits that a guy can pull out there, but most of those guys are pulling 10-inch plus size baits, going about 4 to 5 miles an hour and trolling out on the flats. It's kind of a hit or miss deal. You know, you kind of roll the dice and give it a shot, and sometimes you get one and sometimes you don't. Moving on to the smallmouth. The smallmouth bite's been pretty good. It's been a great season so far. I've noticed that there's a few techniques that are working pretty well at the moment. You can fish them with drop shots, you can fish them with swim baits, you can do the old tried and true Ned rig, you can also get them on top waters. And I'm sure there's others that I haven't mentioned, but that's what I've been throwing, that's what we've been throwing in my boat, and we've been doing pretty well on them. Now, what I would say is if you're looking for smallmouth, I would try to find larger rock. Now, I'm finding some smallmouth in shallower waters, such as 6 feet, and I'm finding them in deeper water all the way out to 26 feet. The one thing that seems to be constant, and they all have in common, is my best fishing is done on large rock and boulders. So whether that's a rock spine, a rocky point, a drop off with large rock on it, or just a single boulder, anywhere where you find that very large rock seems to be where you're going to do best on the smallies. If I had to pick a depth, I would say somewhere in that 12 to 14 foot range, but really anything from 10 to 20 feet, there's a lot of fish there. Techniques for the smallies, Ned rig is tough to beat. If I could only pick one for this time of year, it's going to be the Ned rig. 10th ounce head, green pumpkin Ned rig, just the regular old TRD. Cast it out, let it sink to the bottom on slack line, and drag it in very slow. It gets bit when nothing else will. It's just a fantastic, simple bait. It's the way to go. So if you're going to pick one thing to go out and try, the Ned rig is it. Another thing that a guy can do is cast swim baits. Now, I'm a huge fan of swim baits in the spring and the fall, but during the summer I like to do things a bit differently. Instead of throwing the 4-inch paddle tails and a 1/4 ounce head, I actually go to a 3-inch paddle tail and put it on a 1/4 to a 3/8 ounce head. I'm trying to get a little bit deeper. I'm trying to fish a little bit faster maybe, and I'm trying to get that head to deflect off cover. I want to try to provoke a reaction strike out of these fish. So a little bit smaller bait, a little bit heavier head, and fishing them a little bit deeper and definitely trying to deflect off cover. You'll be surprised how many fish the swim bait can put in the boat midsummer. If you're going to throw topwaters, morning and evening is always a good time for topwaters, but really anytime you see smallmouth coming up to the surface is a great time to throw a topwater. So keep your eyes open, keep your ears open. If you hear or see fish busting at the surface, have a topwater ready to go. You know, you can throw a whopper plopper, a walk the dog style, or a pop-ar, you know, kind of whatever you have. Toss it out there and give it a try. Sometimes it can be the best fishing of the day. Enjoy the weather, have a great weekend, and good luck fishing.